So in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the function Vlookup, and we're going to be comparing the use of the Vlookup function with a technique that uses a combination of functions, the match function within the index function. Now, why do we need to look at both of them? Because with the VLOOKUP actually has limitations. There are certain conditions that need to be satisfied. We need to get the VLOOKUP table, the actual lookup table in a particular form before we can even use the function. So that's a major limitation, and we will go through those conditions. And the index and match technique doesn't have those limitations. So it's actually a preferred method of mine. So rather than using the VLOOKUP, I'd rather use the index and match function. So let's have a look at that. So what exactly does the Vlookup function do? The Vlookup function is going to look up a value in a table in a specific column, and when it finds that value in the table within that specific column, it is going to return in the same row an associated value located in another column. So that's what the Vlookup function does. Let's look at an example here, which is going to make it even clearer. Now, this is a data set called the Summer Olympics data set, and let's just go through quickly some of the values in this table. So what this table really does is it gives us information on the medalists for the Olympics, depending on the city in which the Olympics was held, the year, and then it will tell us, of course, the specific sport, the discipline, the name of the athlete, the gender, the event gender, and the medal, as well as a code referred to as NOC. Now, it is this NOC code, this actually looks like an abbreviation for a country. We want, rather than just this abbreviation for the country, we want a column that has the country name actually spelled out explicitly. So rather than NOC, we want to see a column there that has country. Let's just put it in from now. So we want a column for country, and we want to see the actual value for country related to the NOC. Great. So we've just discussed the fact that the Vlookup has actually conditions that need to be satisfied, right? So when we look at our NOC code, that table for the NOC code over here, we need to ask ourselves a question. Are these conditions satisfied? So let's have a look at those conditions. So the two conditions are, one, the lookup column must be the first column in the lookup table. So our lookup column is the NOC code column. That must be the first column. Is it the first column in this table? No, it's not. It's actually the second column in the table. The next condition is that the lookup column must be sorted. Is it sorted? Certainly not. So both conditions here are violated. So we can't just use the Vlookup function because neither of these conditions are satisfied, and both of them must be satisfied before we can use the Vlookup function. Otherwise, if we go ahead and ignore them, then we're not likely going to get the correct result. Chances are our results are going to be wrong in some instances. if not all instances. Now I have already gone ahead and sorted the NOC code alphabetically, as well as I have placed that column as the first column in the lookup table. So both conditions have been satisfied. The lookup column must be the first column in the lookup table. Yes, it is. And the lookup column must be sorted. And yes, it is sorted in alphabetical order. Let me just quickly go through how one would sort this. I've already done it, but you would block the entire table. You would just keep going down, all the way down. And you'd go into data. So that's the menu item there that you'd select, and you click on sort. And then of course you need to make sure sort by that it's sorted by the NOC code and your order by, and you click OK. So that's how you would have done it, but I already did that. Okay, great. So we're just going to go right ahead and use the Vlookup function. So I'm just typing in Vlookup, and once I do that, Excel automatically comes up with a little guide for me with what arguments I need to enter. So arguments are really just the values that the function is expecting in order to output the desired value. So the first argument is a lookup value, so that's going to be HUN in this case, right? Because that is the first value in the NOC column. And then we type in the comma and then the table array. So we need to reference the lookup table. So this is just a lookup table. So we're going to go to the Vlookup table, that one, and of course this is the one that satisfies the conditions. So we're just going to quickly reference that. Let's go all the way down. And we're not going to include the rows that have missing values. Don't worry about that. Then we click comma. Let's go up. And then we're going to enter that third argument, which is the column index number. And in this case, it's column 2, because we're returning values in the country column, right? And let's click enter. Great. Now, we would really be tempted at this point simply to drag down the formula rather than doing anything else. But if we were to do that, notice that the reference for the lookup table has changed. Here it's referencing A1 to F122, and now it's referencing A2 to F123. So it's shifting. We don't want it to do that. We want it to be frozen. We want it to stay at the exact cells being referenced, so that the exact cells are being referenced. So let's delete that. So what we're doing there is we need to anchor. So I've just gone into F2, that's the edit mode, and I need to anchor by using F4. So I'm just clicking F4, going in there and clicking F4, and notice it comes up with the dollar signs. The dollar signs show that it is anchored. Anchoring means, remember we had gone through this in the introductory section of the course, anchoring simply means freezing the reference. So when I use F4, it automatically brings up those two anchor symbols for the column reference, and so that the dollar sign is the anchor symbol. So dollar sign for the column reference in front of A, and dollar sign for the row reference in front of row 1. And the same is happening over here. So that's all I've done. Simply to go into the F mode and go there, stick the cursor, place the cursor right by the reference for the cells, and I have just used the F4. So that's how we anchor it very quickly. Otherwise, you could have manually have entered in the dollar sign, no problem. So let's do that. Click enter, and then the next thing we can do is to drag down. If the table was a short table, then we could just drag down, but I think the table is rather a lengthy one, so we don't want to drag down. Let us actually, I'm going to show you another method of doing it. So let us look at, first we want to find out just how long is this table. So I'm going to do Control Shift. So I'm holding down Control Shift at the same time, and then I'm going to click the End key, and that's simply to find out what is the last row, what is the reference to the last row, and I see it as 29217. So let me hurry up now and reference that, 29217, right? And then I am going to right click, click copy, and then I'm going to click F5. I want to change this so that it reflects G, because we're in the G column. And then I am going to click OK. Then it's going to go down to that last row within the G column. So it has just gone to G 29217. Excellent. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control Shift, and I'm going to, while I'm holding down the Control Shift keys, I am going to click on my up arrow key. Okay, so that blocks off all the cells that I want to reference, because that's where I want to copy this formula in all of those cells. And then, so now that it's blocked, all I need to do, remember I'd already done the copy here. So this cell already has that copy, is in copy mode. And all I'm going to do now is to click Enter. Excellent. So we saved ourselves quite a bit of time there, rather than having to drag down and wait and wait and wait. Okay, so that's just a quick shortcut method for you there. So there you have it. We now have the formula, we have applied the formula for the Vlookup, and that's our result. So the next thing is we're going to look at using the technique index and match, so stay tuned for that.